Crowhill here. Today we review an IPA and set straight some of our confused listeners. Hey, Pigweed, good to see you.
Good evening, good evening.
Good evening.
Good to see you. And how about some beer and conversation?
That's a great idea. What are we drinking?
We're drinking an IPA that celebrates a local sports team.
Oh, all right. Fantastic.
So, what's on your mind?
I'm just thinking that the mailbag is getting pretty full, and we've been neglecting it these last few shows,
right?
And it's time to get through some of these
All
letters.
right, we'll clear the docket.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so the Capitals just won the first round of the playoffs last night.
And, well, not just that, but Ovi beat the Gretzky.
This guy could have the greatest hockey career and win the Stanley Cup.
I know, it's pretty amazing.
So everybody's pretty excited around here, and the Devil's Backbone folks down in Virginia have made a Capit-Ale Golden IPA, and let's see what we got here.
Yeah.
It's a 6%er, and as far as I could tell, it wasn't a lot of hop aroma.
Oh, okay. That's sort of straight down the middle IPA, the way I think about it. It's it's kind of like a Goose Island, something along those lines. Yeah,
I would say so. And 6% is barely IPA,
right?
And it was a 4-pack, four 16ers, for $7.99.
Okay, that's not bad.
Which was not bad at all.
Barely covers the taxes in Maryland.
And I'm like, well, if you're going to save $5 on a 6-pack or a 4-pack in this case, there might be something wrong with it. And I didn't even check the date. I figured in some beers, a year-old Imperial Stout is perfectly fine. Yeah. An IPA starts to fade, and so I figured it was old, but not so much. But
it's not. I looked at the date, and it's fine. It's relatively fresh, and tastes fine.
It doesn't taste like it's funky or faded or anything like that.
So well done, Devil's Backbone, and thanks for celebrating our local team.
All right.
Okay, so what do you want to start with? We got a bunch to go on.
I have two from the same show.
Okay.
We did a show on slavery.
Yeah.
And Polar Beard says, you focused on the long history of slavery, but barely mentioned slavery in the Americas. What do you think about this statistic? And he forwards along a statistic.
And let's just mention, we intentionally did not talk about slavery in America, because the whole point of the show was to talk about slavery as something that's been part of human history forever.
It's a global and historic phenomenon, and the focus on slavery in the Americas really captures a tiny little slice.
And misrepresents the issue.
Right. Yep. And so, speaking of misrepresenting issues,
yes,
we have a statistic here that says 69% of black women believe white people invented slavery.
Wow.
As do 53% of black men. And I read that and I just go, walking around with that level of ignorance is going to cloud your view of way too many things.
Yeah. And, I kind of always thought
there was no history until the founding of America, and white people said, nobody's ever tried?
Let's try slavery.
We're going to buy people and treat them as property.
But isn't there this, and this might be a misrepresentation, it might be a bad stereotype, I don't know what, but isn't there this idea that a lot of black people have like some sort of church-going experience?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't they remember that the Israelites were slaves in Egypt? I mean, that's like sort of basic biblical stuff.
Yeah, right. So if you only knew of one other slave system, it would at least have to go back 4,000 years.
Right. Like, even if you didn't know that Slavs were called Slavs because they were slaves.
And everybody everywhere from the Americas to China were enslaving each other. If you didn't know any of that, if you only knew one other thing.
The one other thing you might know was that the Israelites were slaves in Egypt. So obviously white people, unless you're going to call the Egyptians white people, I don't know.
And I don't, this idea of invented, I don't think it's referring to the Israelites in Egypt.
No.
It's referring to the colonists in America.
Yeah.
So. Anyway,
well, that's a disappointing statistic.
That really is. Yeah. That really is. Yeah.
That makes me sad. Okay.
You want to do another?
Yeah,
I got two slaveries, but
so
we'll
I
come
thought
back.
we had done this one before, but if not, that's fine. So JR sends this. This is about the tariffs edition. The Trump administration just announced new tariffs on aluminum and steel. That might not sound like a big deal to most, but for small businesses, including my beloved craft breweries, 25% is a gut punch.
Yep.
So, what do we have to say about this?
Well, I am hoping that it's like most of the tariffs, it's not to get the tariff money. Mm-hmm. It's to get things moving in other ways.
It's a beginning of a negotiation.
Yeah. And so I would say, is it going to inspire more aluminum production in this country?
Yeah.
Is it... I don't think that they would just be okay with everything, getting a 25% cost that's going to be passed on to consumers.
Yeah, so...
I haven't seen any of it.
So I like the idea of tariffs to protect industries that we absolutely have to have in the United States. Like, for example, the idea that we get our pharmaceuticals from China, that, like, who was the idiot who allowed that to happen? That's ridiculous. Or, I mean, imagine if we were doing something like buying our ammunition from
farmers.
So there are certain things that you obviously have to be self-sufficient. Now, other things, it makes sense to buy other things from other countries. And like steel, we really have to have a domestic steel industry. What if we need to start building ships? You know?
You have to buy your steel from your enemy.
Exactly. We're going to go to China and say, would you sell us some steel so that we can build a battleship, please? You know, that's pretty stupid. So we do want to revitalize domestic industries. But at the same time, I really think that the Trump tariffs are simply a negotiating tool to get other countries to lower their tariffs on our stuff.
All right. Well, I haven't seen any damage to the cost of beer cans based on aluminum tariffs.
Right.
So let's
see. Yeah. What do you got?
I said I had two for the slavery issue.
Right.
And Double Helix Felix says, if the Arab slave trade was larger and lasted longer, why aren't there black populations in the Middle East like there are in the Americas?
Well, I don't know. Are there?
No.
No?
No, because the Arabs only enslaved men and castrated them.
Oh, okay.
Rough?
Yeah, well, I guess that would explain why there are no kids.
That would cut down on it. And you know what? I was also thinking there might be something geographical about this where while in the Americas you're like, we got to go all the way back to Africa to get a slave? Why don't we just breed them here? And the Africans are like, well,
they're just right next door.
Just right next door. Once this one runs out, I guess I could go get another one. Or,
That's pretty rough. They castrated all the slaves.
You're right. You're right. I mean, you're like, if you were a slave in the Americas, it probably wasn't a good life.
Wasn't a good life.
But, you might have had a family. Right?
Yeah.
You weren't just like a castrated single man until
Not trying to justify slavery, but at least you weren't castrated.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's kind of rough.
Yeah,
okay.
that's real rough.
How about this one? Why are liberals so okay with violence? This is a response from Miss Maisy to our episode, Why Are Liberals So Okay with Violence?
Yeah.
She asks, you talked a lot about left-wing violence, but didn't mention events like January 6th or militia threats. Don't you think leaving that out undermines your argument?
Oh, gosh. Really?
Well, so obviously, we did do a show on January 6th where we very clearly said, violence is unacceptable. Attacking the Capitol is the wrong thing to do. So we are against the violent portion of that. Obviously, most of the people at January 6th were not violent. It was a small group of those people.
And by and large, the point was, it seems like your average walking around liberal is pretty okay with violence. So
and your average
had a small slice of a small group.
Yeah.
Yes. Got out of hand on a single day. I don't think you can equate the two.
Yeah, I would be willing to bet Miss Maisy $100 that if you were to ask run-of-the-mill Republicans, are you okay with people violently attacking the Capitol? And you get the numbers on that, with a percentage. Yes, I'm for it. No, I'm not for it. And then you were to ask run-of-the-mill Democrats, are you okay with people attacking
Trump supporters
and Tesla dealers? I would put my money on the line that the left would be more okay with the violence than the right would be.
100%.
Yeah. So I don't.
So sorry, Maisy.
Yeah.
But
And okay,
keep listening.
Let's talk about the militia threats. So I don't really know that I believe that there are militia threats.
No, I mean this was a distraction from the summer of burning.
Yeah, it's like a liberal wet dream or something. I don't get it.
Totally got it.
Yeah.
Right. The number one priority of the military was to hunt down white supremacists. The FBI was entirely focused on the dangers of right-wing extremism. What?
Yeah.
Where? What?
Yeah. Now there obviously there are nuts out there. Like the guy who bombed the Oklahoma City place. There are some weird,
2 years ago.
nutty people out there. No question about it. But I just don't think they're anywhere near the threat that the Biden administration was trying to make them.
No, that was a total distraction.
Yeah.
Hearing BS.
All right. What do you got?
I have something. This one is this is the judicial tyranny thing.
Okay.
Clownfish writes, since you guys did the show on judicial tyranny, there were 5 national injunctions in 1 week, 3 in 1 day. Did you know this was coming?
Well,
That's
we're
flattering.
good. We're good.
That's flattering.
We're good, but we're not that good.
We don't have the inside sources you might assume that we have.
That's right, yeah.
We know nothing, but I kind of wanted to do the show because there had already been so many. I was just like, this thing might have petered out. I mean, there's been 32 in 60 days.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't just keep going on forever.
No,
and
it's
then
not gonna stop.
1 week later, yeah, it just can't. Can I give you an example?
Yeah.
So on Tuesday, there was Trump cannot fire or defund the VOA for some reason. Mm-hmm. Wednesday, they demanded the return of a different illegal alien from Maryland, coincidentally.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got the trifecta on Thursday. Ms. McCafferty, appointed judge, blocked the Trump administration from cutting funds that promote DEI. So in the Constitution, you must give money.
You must fund the VOA. You must give money to DAI initiatives.
Yes, because not, you're violating the Constitution. All right,
Yeah.
also on Thursday,
Yeah.
D.C. judge blocked an order by requiring proof of citizenship to vote.
Wow.
I mean, well, before I give you my commentary, let me finish up here.
Yeah.
This is also Thursday. Federal Judge William Orrick stops Trump from defunding sanctuary cities which harbor and protect illegal aliens. So if a state acts directly in violation of federal law,
Yeah.
you can't do anything about that.
Okay.
And that was
I really like the ones where liberals are defending the judge who tried to get a criminal away from the police.
Yes.
And the Trump administration arrested her, and oh my gosh, yeah.
And Jennifer Thurston has issued an order banning Customs and Border agents from detaining suspected illegal aliens without a warrant. So somebody comes across the border, and you have to already have a warrant, knowing that they were coming across the border to. What are you even talking about?
Yeah, this is kind of silly.
So, guys, a man runs for a guy who knows who he is runs for president. He says, "I am going to do these things when I become president," and the majority of the people say, "We want you to do those things."
Yeah.
And then he attempts to do those things, and all you need is a bunch of judicial hacks.
Well, I mean,
honestly,
in a sense, I agree with that. I mean, if somebody runs for president saying, I'm going to curtail free speech,
right?
And I'm going to tell everybody that they can't talk about blah, 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 even if he wins, I want the justice system to step in and say, no, that's against the Constitution, you can't do that. Okay? That part I agree with. The part I disagree with is individual nut district judges thinking that they get to decide on these kinds of issues.
And you can have, if you want to rule that, well, we covered this in the judicial show, but
yeah.
So they're bringing the case on behalf of somebody,
yeah,
right? And they go, oh,
And by the way,
I don't mean just him.
yeah, I mean everybody in the universe.
I mean everybody in the universe.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, okay. I see. So not just this guy who has actual standing in the case.
Yeah.
No, anybody who has a case that could remotely be similar.
Anybody. And if the Klingons land and they bring, then you have to have them. Every single one of them has to have a court date.
Right. They could be outer space aliens. They could be illegal aliens.
Whatever it is.
You
got to go through the courts, and you got to do it one by one.
So I guess, Clownfish, no, this isn't even big. We haven't even scratched the surface of this judicial tyranny. We'll see how this thing pans out.
Okay, so Nicholas Madrid. I like that name. Nicholas is a nice one. About episode 498, 1984 versus Brave New World.
Oh, yeah.
Now, there are actually two questions. I'm not sure we'll get to both. But the first one was, you painted sex without emotional attachment in these books as a symptom of dystopia. But isn't that just your moral framework talking? For people who don't want traditional relationships, isn't Brave New World actually kind of a utopian?
Yeah, I imagine it is.
Sure.
There probably are creeps who are going, wait a minute, you've designed the perfect drug with no hangover and no addiction.
Right.
And I can still get up and go to work the next day, and it's no problem. And free sex?
Yeah.
What?
That sounds...
And I don't have to raise children because the state will do it for me?
Right. It all sounds delightful from a particular point of view.
So yes, we are taking a moral stance here.
Yeah,
and you're a creep. Not you, Nicholas. I'm just saying the people who.
But see, I would say it's not only a moral stance. But it is a moral stance. But I would say it's not only a moral stance. It's also a recognition of the fact that humans have evolved over hundreds of thousands of years to have these instincts that connect emotional attachment and being in a family way and all that sort of stuff with sex. And that's deeply ingrained in our biology. The idea that we can just say, oh, we've invented the pill, turn that off now, that's just not a reasonable anthropology. Humans are not like that.
Right.
Humans have evolved over a long period of time all these different feelings and emotions, and not just feelings and emotions, but like chemical reactions and various things going on in your body that when you have sex with somebody, it creates a bond. And they're going to say, no, we're just going to turn that off. We're going to give you this pill. Everybody's going to have free sex and everybody's going to be lovely.
Right. So
it's just that it just doesn't. I'm sorry, it doesn't resonate.
Well,
it doesn't make sense.
This is one of the fundamental distinctions between conservatism and leftism is that the leftists want to separate their mind from their body and say, well, we don't care about history or biology. Yeah. We have already invented a better system. Yeah. And the conservatives are like, well, whether you like it or not, people are a certain way.
Yes, there is a human nature.
There is a human nature. We cannot be just remade because you say so or you force people into gulags. Right. Don't do it. So let's find the system that's most consistent with this human nature, for better or for worse, and make that thing work. And I think that is where the authors of both of these dystopian novels, in two very different ways, say these are ways that top-down thinking can go wildly wrong and inconsistent with human nature, like you said.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's go ahead and take the second one.
Sure.
You joke about living in idiocracy and being passive boobs in front of screens, but you're delivering this entire critique in a podcast, which is just another entertainment medium built on convenience and passive consumption.
Burn.
Well, okay, that is a reasonable point. However, idiocracy and being passive boobs in front of a television is not quite the same thing as listening to a discussion of issues.
Right. Especially from two brilliant analysts.
Intellectual gladiators.
Drinking beer.
Yes, I know. I mean,
so
it's really not quite the same thing.
Yes, you need to get your face in front, stop listening to the podcast, except for this one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
if you're listening,
there are lots of ways that you should not be.
Yeah, there are a lot of podcasts that are just dumb. I mean, I'm at the gym and I go into the sauna and there's some guy, being a jerk.
He can't put his earbuds in?
I know. He's listening to the podcast right there in the song. Everybody else has got to listen to it. And it's just the most trivial, stupid stuff you could imagine.
And if you who's our writer?
This is Nicholas Madrid.
So and if you're confused about which ones are ridiculous drivel and which ones are worth listening to, write us again.
Yeah, exactly.
And tell us what you're listening to.
Yeah, and we'll tell you.
Stop listening to that.
Yes.
And only
Right.
listen to the
listen to this, because this is all right. You got another one for me?
No, I don't. I think I got my whole.
Okay, well, we do have one on the real Snow White controversy. This is kind of fun. Mabel 298 says, "Have you heard the theory that the 1933? She says 33. Or
1937, because it was the same year as The Hobbit. Remember
Okay,
that?
yeah. Sorry, Mabel, you got that wrong.
Got that wrong.
1937 version that the kiss doesn't really wake her up,
Okay.
but that Prince Charming is her guardian angel taking her to heaven. This explains why the dwarves don't come with them, and it also explains the hazy, cloudy image of the castle at the end."
Okay, well, let me back this up here. So she goes into a coma. So this poison apple isn't really poison.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes into a coma, and for reasons we don't know, can only be awakened by
Love's first kiss. Right.
Okay, love's first kiss, and so, boom, the kiss comes along, and which is very different than the Grimm's tale, as you recall. Yeah. And she wakes up, and then the
dwarves do a dance, and they go off.
To the castle, to the prince, and the wicked witch falls off a cliff or something like that. Or the stepmother.
She's already gone, I think. Yeah. So the prince picks up Snow White and carries her off, and they go towards this sort of hazy, cloudy, distant castle.
And Mabel is suggesting that what?
That's going to heaven.
So
she's really dead.
She really did die.
She really did die. And
but I guess the poison kept her from decomposing for all of this time.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely some things that stretch credulity. Like, okay, she'd had this poison apple, and she doesn't decompose, so she's like a saint or something, with an incorruptible body in this glass coffin. Oh, the other thing is that the glass coffin is sort of like
what did the dwarves build it for?
Yeah. It's sort of like a reliquary or something so it's an interesting, amusing theory, but I heard it described.
So, but to me, I thought the dwarves were whistling while they worked. They had a perfectly nice life. Just because they didn't take them to the castle, I know. What kind of implication is that? They didn't want to go.
They had their life.
They didn't invite the lady to come there to begin with.
I know. They were doing fine.
They don't have to go.
They don't have to go. They're digging up gold and gems.
They didn't even need her to clean the place, but she was there, so they did. So, but they're saying I don't remember this wispy, cloudy ending.
I don't remember it until I saw. Mabel said this, and I looked at this video, and it really is when the prince is carrying her off. It's this hazy, foggy picture of, it almost kind of looks like going to heaven. But that's just sort of fairy tale imagery.
Right. I would say, right. It's up on a mountaintop.
Yeah.
So high that it's going to be.
It's going to look hazy.
But there is a. It isn't. This isn't just Mabel on her own.
No, other people have said this.
And what's this thing called?
So I've heard this view. I've heard this described as a poetic retcon.
Okay,
which I think is a funny. I don't know. Retroact. I don't know.
Something.
Yeah, my daughters would know that better than I do. I don't know. I don't know these hip words. Poetic retcon. I guess that means reinterpretation.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So Mabel, it's an interesting theory. It's kind of fun, but I really don't think that's the real meaning.
No, but we have really stretched out the Snow White story, which is fun.
All right. So, folks, thanks so much for the letters, and write to us at pigweedshow@gmail.com. We love to get them, and we'll try to be a little more faithful about getting through the mailbag. Yeah.
All right. Go Caps.
Yep. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.